So next up we have another submission from Colonel-Majora.
I believe he's going to revisit an old discussion that we had from way back in the very beginning of Z-Talk, and he's going to talk about some of the items in the Legend of Zelda series.
He's got a top 10 list for us, so let's go to that.
Hi, ZD fans, it's Colonel-Majora again, here to give you more of Legendary Reflections. Today I'm going to give you something a little different, my top 10 items list of the Zelda series. I've got quite a bit to say today, so I'm going to talk pretty quick this time around, but bear with me, and I'm also a little bit sick this week, so again, bear with me. This list is based on functionality, reuse value, how well it's used in the Zelda series, and to quote Z-Talk's own Dean Akira, the coolness factor. But let's get right on into it, starting with number 10. As you know, Zelda Majora's Mask had an inventory space of 24 different masks, 5 of which could transform you into something totally awesome. And yes, I do include the Fierce Deity Mask and the Giant's Mask. Yeah, it counts. But the one thing that most players consider to be the best is the Zora Mask. The Goron Mask made it easy for straight-out travel, but was erratic and unbalanced. The Deku Mask was useful in many ways, but horridly weak. So, the Zora Mask, which was much more enjoyable, swims up at the number 10 spot. It had a perfect balance of well-worthy function and simple yet fun control. Plus, you had to use it several times in the game, but it was certainly not a chore. The feeling of flight through the water was uncanny, the shielding was useful, and the boomerang-like fins added some distance attacks to Zora Link's ninja-like on-land attacks. It was truly an entertaining transformation, but its slightly slow movement on land kept it a bit low on the list, as well as how you had to use it so many times that it might get a little boring to use sometimes. But anyway, number 9. In Zelda Wind Waker, there was an extremely lengthy trading quest that involved going to various islands to trade items with NPCs. The final prize was a piece of heart, but the partway through prize was a real treat. In Twilight Princess, this item was a bit easier to get, but its price in rupees was quite ridiculous. This item, guarding its spot at number 9, is the Magic Armor. It makes for a very handy defense tactic in a tight situation. For the small price of some magic in Wind Waker, or the unfortunately large price of rupees in Twilight Princess. Honestly, once you get the hang of both games, the armor really wasn't needed, but Wind Waker's Savage Labyrinth and Twilight Princess's Cave of Ordeals took some nifty weapon work, so at times you might feel like you really needed it. These two secret caverns, if you would call them dungeons, they would be my two favorite in the whole series. But I never go in without my fancy number 9 spot armor. Anyway, number 8. Next up is a worthy reward of an equally extensive side quest in another game. It has twice as much power as the Master Sword and can reach even further and makes fighting Ganon in the end of Ocarina of Time a lot easier. You still need the Master Sword in the end of that, but still, the big Goron sword slicing in at number 8 was just as worthy to get. This is one of my favorites of the Zelda side quest items in the whole series, and I get it every time I play through a new game of Ocarina of Time. It takes quite a long time to get, but adds a nice element of side content that Ocarina of Time already had. The only issue keeping it at number 8 would be that you can't use your shield while holding it, and the actual length of the side quest that is required to get it. And number 7. If there's one thing that the Super Mario series has mastered over the Zelda series, it's that classic platformer jumping style. But with the items gliding through the air at the number 7 spot, the Rock's Feather and Rock's Cape, Link can finally soar through the air like that red Italian plumber we all love so much. It would not have appeared in 3D games because it wasn't really needed, but it always made the 2D Zelda experience a lot easier. Not much to say about it though, except for the fact that not being in the 3D games is what's keeping it kind of low on the list. Number 6. This item is a huge symbol of how the Zelda series does not need complex and futuristic weapons to be awesome. Spinning through the air around my number 6 spot is the Boomerang, which has been in every Zelda game to date, except Skyward Sword, and its controls, look, and usability are only changed for the better over the years. We have already seen it grab items, stun enemies, spin propellers, target multiple objects, and hit things around corners. So we can only wait and see what future Zelda games bring to the table. Number 5. If you have played any of the more critically acclaimed Zelda games, you've probably seen some sort of instrument, whether it's Oracle of Ages harp, Zelda 1's flute, Spirit Track's pipe flute, or any of the Majora's Mask items. But the most significant of all of them would have to be the only one with a game named after it. And no, it is not the Wind Waker. That baton is not an instrument. Deal with it. Just kidding. Anyway, I'm actually talking about the ocarinas of the series, which are serenading the spot number 5. The ocarina is the most famous of the Zelda instruments. Not only did the Ocarina of Wind make the traveling of Zelda Minish Cap so much easier, but it obviously made Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask two incredibly musical experiences. You can teleport, change the time of day, make rain fall from the sky, call giants, or a whole bunch of other things. The tunes you play are some of the most incredible tunes in the entire series, and the addition of Ocarina to the series' soundtracks only adds to that nice medieval feeling that Zelda's famous for. And number 4, there's often times when you have to carry smaller or less significant things in the Zelda series, and for some unnameable reason, Link can't just shove them into his bottomless pockets like he does with all those giant items like the ball and chain or powder kegs. So for this unfixable issue, apparently, Nintendo decided to add some crystal clear items clearly capable of bottling up my number 4 spot on this list. Most of you have guessed it already, but if not, it's the bottles. The empty bottles are some of the most helpful items in any game series I've played. You can use them to hold potions, bugs, fire, fairies, Majora's Mask's Deku Princess, and who knows how much more. Plus, using them to reflect Ganon, Phantom Ganon, and Aghanim's magic is pretty awesome too. There's always enough bottles to collect in the games, so you'll always have plenty of reason to celebrate their existence. And Zelda Dungeon's own Trevor Mignani, over at their YouTube channel, made a video that pretty much convinced me to make this item a whole lot higher on my list. So, number 3 is a weapon which has symbolism, backstory, and purpose that just make a huge amount of the legends in the Legend of Zelda series. Unsheathing at number 3 is the Master Sword. There's a lot less to say here, considering how you simply King Arthur it out of its pedestal, and use it for most of whatever game you're playing at the time. But since no one ever tires of using it, and again we have Skyward Sword, a whole game about its origins, it deserves being pretty high on my list. And number 2, well, I think I'm just gonna tell you outright. It's the hook shot, long shot, switch hook, long switch, claw shot, or double claw shots. Yeah, sorry for the long name, but its reappearing, remaking, and renaming has never made the item any less fun. It's been in almost every Zelda game since A Link to the Past, and it's arguably the most constantly evolving weapon in the whole series. The hook shot appeared in A Link to the Past, and then eventually made it into first person in Ocarina of Time, then back to 2D again in Oracle of Ages and Seasons. Then, if it weren't enough, Nintendo has said, hey, we're awesome, we're gonna throw in a second one. So you get to use 2 at a time in Twilight Princess. Now for number 1, this is easily the most valuable and variable weapon in the whole series. It showed up in every game except for Zelda 2, and can be upgraded more than any other weapon. Sniping that number 1 spot on this list is the bow and arrows. Upgrades with fire, ice, silver, and light are pretty good, but upgrades of the Hawkeye and bomb arrows from Twilight Princess are the closest thing to a medieval sniper rifle and rocket launcher that any Zelda fan has ever seen, and Twilight Princess's bomb arrows were definitely more awesome than the ones in Link's Awakening. Plus, who hasn't ever wanted to just cat baddies from far away? The bow and arrows have gone from top-down shooting to third-person 3D targeting to motion control aiming, and the fact that the arrows can be upgraded in so many ways makes it so that you can never get tired of getting to use them again and again to solve the trickiest brain teasers and to engage in the most enjoyable battles. But But that's all for now. Thanks for listening to my list of my top 10 favorite items in The Legend of Zelda. Now, I want to hear from you guys. What are your favorite items? Send me a list of your favorites to Colonel-Majora@gmail.com. Oh, and let me know if you guys want to hear more top 10 Zelda lists sometime. But thanks again for hearing me out, and let's head back to Din and Rish. Maybe they'll even tell us what their favorite items in the series are.
Well, I cannot truly remember which item I would call my favorite, and that might have changed over time. So if you go back to some of the beginning podcasts and you hear it, it might be a different answer. But what I'm going to have to say is I'm going to actually have to say the boots. The different kinds of boots.
Oh, good answer. Mine hasn't changed. I would still say the double claw shot. Skyward Sword didn't produce anything that I really loved. The beetle was cool, but it didn't, blow my mind.
No, and I wouldn't count the upgrading your weapons as...
No. I like the double claw shot. Still my favorite.
Yeah.